Hello everybody, welcome back to my channel, The Medieval Reader. So today I would like to make a Friday Reads video, just talk about the books that I'm currently reading. I've been trying to get through as many books as possible this month and the beginning of July because I'll be moving, and I only want to keep the books that I know I will be rereading. That's usually my practice, to give away the books that I enjoyed, because I usually enjoy the books I read but don't plan on rereading. It's hard to know what those books are in advance, but I have some ideas. I'm trying not to buy any more books, and I'm also trying not to borrow more books from the research library. Again, because I'm moving, but I don't always have the most self-control. Anyway, here are the books that I'm reading. So I'm still reading Gerbert, which is a 13th century epic that I mentioned in Friday Reads video a few weeks ago. If you recall, if you watched that video, there are two families. There are the Bourguignon and the Lorrain. Gerbert is of the Lorrain family. He wants to avenge the death of his father by Froment, who's of the Bourguignon family. Froment, in this part of the book, has been kidnapped by the Saracens, aka the Muslims, but Muslims in the 13th century are not well represented by Christians, so they worship Muhammad for some reason. That's what Christians thought Muslims worship. I don't know how, but anyway, I'm hoping though that the story does not go down the Song of Roland route, because I've already read the Song of Roland. The reason why I have no problem spoiling this book is because it's this extremely obscure book translated from Old French into modern French. The French haven't even heard of it, so yeah, it's just this book that I'm reading. I'm halfway through. I hope to finish it as soon as possible, but I've been really enjoying it. Then I'm reading The Bluest Eye by Toni Morrison. I bought this for 50 cents at a charity shop, Goodwill. They had a number of books for 50 cents, and while I really did not like Toni Morrison's Sula, I read it a few years ago, and I've been wanting to try something else by Morrison. A lot of people have spoken highly of The Bluest Eye, so I wanted to pick it up, and it's a very quick read. I mean, just today I've already read 60 pages, and I only spent like 45 minutes reading it, so I'm really speeding through it. I'm actually liking it a lot more than I thought I would. I think I've just matured a lot since the last time I tried reading Morrison. When I read Sula, I was very turned off by how explicit and how violent the book was. And this one is definitely, again, explicit and violent, but it's an important book. It's about a girl named Piccola who dreams of having blue eyes, because then she would be loved, she would be seen as beautiful for racist reasons. She is seen as ugly, and then evidently a lot of really terrible things happen to her. So I really hope to finish this today. This is like a book you read in a couple sittings. And finally, I'm reading Joseph in Egypt, a cultural icon from Grotius to Goethe by Bernard Long. Here's Bernard Long. He's a professor of religion at the University of Paderborn in Germany. So I'm very interested in saints' lives and how saints were venerated, particularly in the Middle Ages. And this book is about Joseph, who was sold into slavery by his brothers. It's a story that's in the book of Genesis in the Old Testament or the Hebrew Scriptures. And what this book looks at is how Joseph was interpreted and his story retold by people in the early modern period. Not simply Christians, but also Jews and Muslims. It's a really, really fascinating book if you're interested in heroes and the way that saints' lives are told. And I say saints' life because it really does feel that way. Yes, he is a patriarch. Yes, it's very different because many of the people who Long mentions are Protestants, so they don't really have saints. But it's a similar kind of dynamic where this individual comes to represent all the values of the people who venerate him. And so at times he's seen as the ideal educator, the ideal male figure, maybe even the ideal father figure, the ideal administrator. He has all of these images, and Long goes through a number of different texts by a wide variety of people of the early modern period and gives us a little synopsis or even like passages from those works, and you get to see all the different ways in which Joseph's story is told. So for example, the gray, and there's a lot of these in the book, are just different retellings of the same story. And it's super interesting if you really like fairy tale folklore. It's the same kind of idea except applied to Joseph. And evidently he's going to talk about Chateaubriand and Voltaire, Enlightenment thinkers, and the way they read Joseph, what they found valuable in him, whether they admired him or not. Some thought that he was kind of a tyrant figure in the story. There are also some really nice images. Goethe, the poet, was actually very inspired by the story of Joseph. His family hosted a count, and there were these painters who painted images of Joseph, modeling Joseph after this count who was living in Goethe's family's house. And so one of the first stories that Goethe wrote was actually a retelling of the story of Joseph. Unfortunately, he didn't like it, he burned it. But that was a really interesting fact. I'm really liking this book. I have had high expectations about it, and I look forward to making a full length review when I'm done. So I hope you guys are all doing well. I don't know if you've read Joseph in Egypt or if you've read The Bluest Eye. Tell me what you thought about them, and some of your tips about moving, if you have any. I don't have a lot of stuff in my apartment, but I'm starting to realize why minimalism is so important. Because when you have to move, then you wish that you didn't have a lot of possessions, which I don't. I don't have a lot of possessions. Some friends are having some pest problems, and so they had to box a lot of stuff, bag a lot of stuff, and they had a lot of stuff. So when I was helping them out, I was thinking, you know, I really need to keep my stuff under control so that I don't have to go through all of this, so that moving is not a nightmare. I really want to make it as pain-free as possible. So if you have any tips about moving, let me know. So, hope you guys are all doing well. Bye now.